Hello viewers, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. A happy Saturday to each and every one of you. I am today joined by Mr. Leroy A.E. Abraham, who is the General Manager and CEO at the BVI Electricity Corporation, alongside the Deputy General Manager, Ms. Symourne Penn. Of course, many of our residents have concerns as it pertains to the present state of the electricity corporation and the billing system, and today I'm honored to be joined by these two professionals who are going to put into perspective not only the reasoning but encourage you to really manage as residents our intake when it comes to the electricity and the usage of such. So I am going to be joined by these two professionals who are going to put it into perspective for us. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Why? This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What do you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, I can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What do you really? Hey, this ain't like you,
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out of trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit, I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I huff. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
Viewers, welcome back. As promised, I want to thank you for your time, and we are today joined by Mr. Leroy Abraham and the lovely Miss Penn. I want to thank you both for your time. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
most
you,
welcome.
Ron.
Now, as I mentioned before, residents across the Virgin Islands and by extension the region, to be honest with you both, I didn't think that we needed to have this conversation because there are so much going on across the region, Mr. Abraham and Ms. Penn. However, persons are still seemingly concerned, they're still bewildered as to the fact of the rising costs in electricity and fossil. So we deemed it necessary to have you guys come in and really put into perspective for the viewing audience what is really taking place, not only on a local scene, but on an international scene that is causing the ripple effect for residents who are experiencing an increase in electricity bills. Mr. Abraham, I want to begin with you. What's taking place on the international scene?
So once again, I'd like to thank you, Ron, for facilitating us to have this, this dialogue today. As you rightfully mentioned, the situation as it relates to energy costs is a topical subject, not just locally, regionally, but also internationally. As we saw coming out of the pandemic, energy is directly correlated to oil and gas. And ultimately, when the prices of those two commodities go up, ultimately it affects energy costs. So at this present time, coming out of the pandemic, that has unfortunately driven the cost of oil extremely high. And more recently, the geopolitical issues which are taking place in Europe between Russia and Ukraine, that has unfortunately spiraled or caused the effects of coming out of the pandemic and caused the cost of oil and gas to escalate to record figures that we haven't seen in well over 2 decades. Regionally, the majority of electricity throughout the Caribbean is produced by fossil fuel, by diesel. And ultimately, the rising cost of oil, we had oil at almost $130 a barrel once again. We hadn't seen numbers like that since 2008, actually. And that is one of the main contributors to the high cost of energy globally, which is, as I say, the commodities of oil and gas escalating to record high figures.
Now, with that said, Ms. Penn, I want to put into perspective who is truly in control of the, as it relates to the discipline and the usage. Who's in control?
Well, essentially the customers are in control of their electricity consumption, and persons have to practice measures such that they can reduce their consumption within their home so that they can likewise see a reduction on their electricity bill.
And what are some measures that you may recommend from the corporation as it pertains to a reduction and a control?
So, well, first of all, the first thing in ensuring that you can manage your electricity consumption is, first of all, being aware of how electricity is consumed in your household. For example, persons may not know, but if you just turning off a television or appliance doesn't mean that it isn't consuming electricity. There's what is called idle load, where you will see like a timer on your microwave or a light on your TV, and that means that that appliance is still consuming electricity. So once you are aware of how the appliances in your home consume electricity, then you can employ mitigating measures to reduce your household consumption.
Wonderful. I thank you for
because if I may add,
Sure.
Ron, the first element, as Ms. Penn indicated, is awareness. And unfortunately, when it comes to electricity and the household, a lot of people take for granted with regards to consumption. Most of us employ water pumps ultimately in our home in terms of getting water in our home to flush a toilet, take a shower, whatever the case might be. And we don't practice good maintenance with regards to these water pumps. Sometimes these pumps are kicking in very frequently. And little things like that, once you're unaware of it, can essentially drive your consumption up. Because ultimately, the electric utility business is one of the last industries that operate in a postpaid market. You consume something, you consume energy, and after that particular period, that's when we determine how much your usage was, and then we bill you. So if you can employ mitigative measures, as Ms. Penn have indicated, to reduce that consumption, that is going to go a long way with regards to reducing your bill at the end of the day. But you have to be aware of all the equipment that you have and essentially how that energy is being consumed in the home.
I appreciate that very much. Now, energy conservation essentially is a low-hanging fruit. I mean, that does not require any investment, as we know, but lifestyle changes in mitigating high electricity usage. And I think a lot of it perhaps are habits, in a sense, that we have become accustomed to be comfortable, but we still need to be more aware. As it pertains to that, I want to touch on the Carolect Resiliency and Energy Efficiency Project. Can you speak to that?
So one of the other hats that I wear at this point, Ron, I am the chairman of the board of directors of Carolect, which is the Regional Association of Electric Utilities. And these are all the electric utilities in the region from South America, being Guyana, all the way to Central America in Belize and everything else in between. There are a few of overseas territories which have signed on to, for lack of we like acronyms, this CREEP. And one of the major deliverables of this program is to essentially assist consumers with understanding energy usage, and not just understanding it from a fundamental standpoint. You also would be able to conduct energy audits in your home. The project was just recently launched, so there are some application forms on our website, Facebook, and Ms. Penn will speak more in terms of the social media that's been used to actually get the information out. But we're looking very keenly to this project taking root within our community to provide our customers with the much needed information with regards to managing their energy. As you rightfully mentioned, energy conservation is that low-hanging fruit. It requires zero investment. It doesn't require you having to take funds to try to lower your usage. Mm-hmm. It comes from certain lifestyle changes, like it isn't economic to iron your clothes every single day. You should choose one time per week and iron
everything
all of
all
your
at the same
clothes
time.
all at once for the week, because ultimately anything that produces heat that's required for electricity, it consumes a lot of electricity. So certain little things is what persons need to do, and as I say, it comes part of that awareness. And this program, which we have signed on to with Carolect, and some other overseas territories, Cayman, I think Bermuda, St. Martin, some of the other jurisdictions in the region that has signed on to this program, where we have high expectations at BVIEC that this would assist in terms of educating our customer base and being able to better manage and control their energy usage.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim. I'm happy to hear about the dialogue between the regions, because one of the unfortunate instances is that we somehow feel like our situations here in the territory are somehow isolated, and they're not. Across the region and globally on the international scene, residents are experiencing the same level of frustration and high electricity bills that we are. But I'm happy to hear the conversations are being happening through the region with our counterparts. Ms. Penn, I want to segue a little bit as it pertains to some of the habits that you mentioned. And essentially, outside of the habits, how can persons make sure that they are communicating with the BVIEC? And when I say communicating, I mean we're moving from paperless, we're trying to move forward from paperless bills. The BVIEC has a very robust online system. Can you speak to the mechanisms that are in place, that have been put in place rather, by the BVIEC to make the process of simply paying or inquiring for bills a bit smoother?
So yes, so recently we celebrated our 10-year anniversary for our online payment system. That helps the customers to manage even their monthly consumption. So we have on our bills a reflection of your monthly consumption, month by month, how you utilize your electricity. And even through that platform, customers are able to manage their electricity. If they see them going up, then they can put mechanisms in place so that they can reduce their consumption. We also have our website, which gives access to contacting BVIEC to report a fault or anything of concern that BVIEC needs to respond to. And I'm quite sure the audience can agree that we try our best all the time to ensure that we give prompt service to our customers.
Yeah, we've made major investments over the years to essentially make things as convenient and as easy for our customers at the end of the day. As Ms. Penn indicated, last year, October, is when we celebrated 10 years of our online platform. At this point in stage, we have just approximately 30%. I think 30% of our customer base. We've been trying very earnestly to get that number increased to at least 50 or over 50% of our customer base that actually utilize that platform to pay their bills online. And in essence, you can pay your bill anywhere in the world. I've had customers tell me they were in China, they were in Alaska, and they paid their utility bill right here in the BVI online. So the system does work and it's very secure. And as I said, it's faster. You can pay your bill 24 hours a day. You can be at home 11 o'clock watching Netflix and you realize you haven't paid your bill and you're in bed, and you can pay your bill right there at the convenience. In the convenience of your home. Well, but something you raised, Ron, I wanted to circle back to, in terms of unfortunately everyone thinks it's just them. And being the chairman of CARILEC, I travel to other Caribbean jurisdictions for meetings, and ultimately everyone always feels in that particular island that I go to is just them. From the time I jump into a taxi, no matter where I go, one of the first things I talk about clandestinely is electricity, and the taxi driver will say, "Oh, we have the highest bills in the world," and I laugh, and all I'm saying in my mind, if you were to come to BVI, they would say the very same things too.
Understood.
But I know for a fact that's a very small percentage of the population. In the BVI, we have a very well-educated population who keeps up and abreast of both local and international happenings. We have a very diverse population. So I think it's a situation where everyone knows that it's a situation that's taking place globally, but I think for most of us, we just don't understand why.
Correct.
We've seen the members of those G8 countries. I think this is the most that they have met in the last 6 months, trying to address the situation as it relates to inflation. And part of what's driving inflation is these energy prices and the commodity prices of fuel, of oil and gas as well. So.
Understood. I want to thank you both so much for putting into perspective for the viewing audience here in the Virgin Islands what exactly is taking place that would have persons experience. And I also thank you, Ms. Penn and Mr. Abraham, for putting into perspective some of the daily habits that we might have become accustomed to that would contribute to what we're seeing. I believe it is essentially in these very critical times, essentially a lifestyle adjustment to some of the habits that we may have become accustomed to. But I do applaud the BVI Electricity Corporation for trying to chart the narrative in educating the general public as to why, first of all, we are experiencing the rise in electricity costs and what we could do as residents, as business owners to mitigate and to truly navigate through these very difficult times. I have to ask you, there have been talks on the local scene about government corporations and agencies somehow working with your agencies to lessen or to be as considerable or understanding with residents. Is that something, Mr. Abraham, that you're even able to do?
I don't want to preempt, I guess, those discussions, because those discussions are in their I would say embryonic state, for lack of a better term. At this point in stage, as we keep reiterating, the situation that's taking place now is something that's internationally being experienced. One of the things I think we neglected to mention is that most of these tips, that energy conservation tips that we've highlighted, they are featured on our website. So you can go to BVIElectricity.com, and I think there's a drop-down tab under customer service where most of these energy conservation tips are listed that persons can employ in their daily lives. And ultimately, once they get their bill, they can ensure that by employing those tips, they're actually seeing the returns from a reduction in their usage.
Wonderful. Again, I want to thank you guys so much. And residents, as you are aware, the BVI Electricity Corporation is open, willing to all your concerns, inquiries. Of course, Ms. Penn mentioned about the very robust online system for paying bills and sending inquiries. Please feel free to reach out to the organization. Ms. Penn, before we go, for persons who may not be aware, give us the website one more time and the contact detail for the BVI Electricity Corporation, any inquiries that residents may have.
Certainly. So our website is BVIElectricity.com, and you can also contact us on our Facebook page, and our telephone number, if you do not know, is 494-3911 or 852-4600.
Wonderful. Mr. Abraham and Ms. Penn, I want to thank you so much for your time. Do have a beautiful rest of the weekend. A happy Saturday to both of you. Viewers, that's all the time we have. I will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ron.